28th NBA Betting Picks edition of the NBA Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up with promo code NBA SGPN to get a 50% deposit bonus of up to $1,000. Roster brought to you by Rhythm. Start crushing college football and the NFL with Rhythm. Get your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. Welcome, everyone, to the NBA Gambling Podcast, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Here to start a new week of NBA betting. Opening week in the books here for the NBA season. It's been a fun ride so far. Of course, we'll get into our picks and all the games here on the Monday schedule. But joining me here to help me break everything down happening on the hardwood, I got my guy here with me. It's Scott Reichel. Scott, what's going on, my man? How you doing?
Yeah, doing pretty well. My team won a game yesterday. Pretty cool. They beat the Bucks. So thank you, Doc Rivers. But can't complain too much. Point is, been so far a pretty fun start to the NBA season. I know he just had an injury, though, to Steph, as we saw him get injured yesterday. So bit of injuries here or there. Point is, though, it has been a fun start to the season. Looking forward to the games on Monday.
Yeah, the yearly ankle injury to Steph Curry. They said it was mild to moderate, so maybe
a couple games.
Yeah, probably. A couple games. I'll probably say like a week, but we'll see if we get some up-to-date news here on the Steph Curry front of things here. Appreciate everybody in the chat joining us as well. Thanks for guys tuning in with us, and hopefully we do have a profitable day here. I will be transparent, guys. I think I am completely in fade mode. I've done 3 pods for the NBA, and I'm 0-6 both on my lock and dog here. So make sure you guys fade me away going forward until I am able to turn things around. But yeah, Scott, like you mentioned, pretty fun start to the season here. I know we have about 2 to 3 games for each team. Not a whole heck of a lot to go off of yet. I think I usually wait till we get to around maybe 7 to 10 games for each of these teams to kind of really get a gauge on them. But like you mentioned, your Nets beat the Bucks yesterday. Maybe it was a look ahead spot for them, but they have the Celtics. I believe it's tonight here on deck. So, but anything else you want to mention? Anything for the early NBA start here before we get into the games?
Yeah, so I can dive into each team. Shout out to JJ Redick. He's done a good job so far with this team. AD's been great, so props to the Lakers so far for being 3-0. Besides that, I'll focus on one team, a team that I really hated their off season. I didn't talk about them because I wasn't on the division preview for the Northwest Division, but damn, Denver's not very good. I just wanted to mention that. Got to start somewhere. They tried the Westbrook experiment. I know that we're about 2 games in. It's not working. So I know they almost came back and beat the Clippers, and that loss, I guess, aged pretty well because the Clippers beat the Warriors. But I got to at least talk about it because Denver doesn't have any shooters on the entire team. And Jamal Murray was better in the second half against the Clippers. We know that he's battled some injuries over the last couple of months, and he's never fully healthy. So we'll see what happens there. Porter Jr., we know, is a good three-point shooter. Doesn't really do much else, but he can shoot from the outside. I mean, Jokic had 7 threes and scored 40-plus points. And they still lost to the Clippers. I feel like I got to at least mention it because right now the Nuggets are in trouble. I'll put it that way. They lost Caldwell Pope. They don't have many shooters. The bench has been a mess. They lose every single, I'd say, lineup where Joker's not on the floor. I got to mention it because I feel like Denver was a team that still had some hype based on Joker being a multiple-time MVP and with them being 1 game away from advancing to the Western Conference Finals last year. Their win total is like 50.5. I know it was higher when the season started, but the West is pretty deep. Can Denver be a play-in team? Can we have this conversation? Because I don't think Denver's that good.
Yeah, and I think we talked about this over at, I think you and I were on the Mothership show, weren't we? With Sean and Ryan previewing the season. And I've said this a lot, that the depth is just not there for this Denver Nuggets team from what they were when they won the championship. And I think there's people in the comment section of our pod saying that Bruce Brown was in a huge deal for them when they won the title, and then who else did they lose? KCP this past offseason. I mean, those are key pieces.
Even like Jeff Green, if you want to throw his name out there, he was a pretty decent bench piece for them.
Yeah, so I mean, the depth is just not there. And again, Westbrook is bouncing around from team to team for a reason, and I don't think that's talked about enough. I was a Westbrook guy when he was cashing a whole bunch of PRA tickets for us when he was with Washington, just walking into triple doubles by halftime.
Mhm.
But I think Jamal Murray's been a shell of himself. At some point they're gonna have to make a decision on Michael Porter Jr. Yeah, he's a 3-point shooter, but it's just too inconsistent for this Denver Nuggets team to find ways to win ball games. And I think a lot of that has to do with their depth. Like we know Joker, like you mentioned, had 40 plus points in their last game. They still ended up losing against the Clippers. But Jamal Murray, I think, had a really, really bad Summer Olympics for Team Canada. He needs to be he needs to be a scoring guard. He passes up too many open shots, especially when he gets into the paint. He has those like those mid-range jump shots available. And he just decides to pass it out for a contested 3-point shot, and that's just not going to get it done. So he needs to, score 20 plus 22 points, 23 points per game, and kind of get back to the guy that we know that can knock down 3-point shots and score at will, because that's the type of player that he's gonna have to be for this Denver Nuggets team right now. Christian Brown, at least in the starter's role right now, has been pretty decent. I mean, it's only a very small sample right now with about 3 games for this Denver Nuggets team, but something is gonna have to change because Minnesota, I think, is gonna figure it out. Julius Randle, I think, I think it was a second or third game. We had a really, really good game against the Sacramento Kings. We know what Anthony Edwards brings to the table. I think they are pretty well head coach. I know a lot of people are out about Chris Finch.
I think Finch is okay. I don't have
Yeah,
an issue with Finch.
and OKC, like defensively, they're going to be the best team in the entire NBA by far. And SGH is playing. You would think that he can't get any better, but I still don't think he's kind of reached his peak yet. And
Well, that was the wake up call because OKC went into Denver and smacked the crap out of him. That game
yeah,
wasn't even close.
yeah, and he's actually developed a 3-point shot. I read reports that he was working on that in the off season, and that's come into fruition thus far. And again, they're still missing Isaiah Hartenstein in that in the front court. They're giving him rim protection, and who knows, more offensive rebounding to create second chance points there for this OKC Thunder team. So something's got to give here for the Denver Nuggets, because obviously their championship window, I think it's closed. They're gonna have to make some type of move to improve around Nikola Jokic here. So 100% agree with you.
Wanted to mention that though, because that was one main takeaway that I had, is that Denver team has serious problems, and
Yeah,
Murray was better against the Clippers, especially in the second half, but the burst, the explosiveness just doesn't seem to be there. Maybe the leg
yeah,
injuries caught up to him over the years, but defensively he has not been great. Offensively, he has not been great at actually creating separation, which gives him opportunities for shot clock bailout, situations to actually get some buckets. But Denver is really just not great. Denver might be an under team, honestly, because the pace is pretty slow. The offense
yeah.
hasn't been great because they can't shoot. And the pace alone kind of drags the game down. But yeah, Denver's a team that I think's got serious problems.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's an team that we'll keep an eye on here going forward, of course, because again, just recent memory, they just were removed from winning a championship not too long ago.
What about you, though? You have any teams that you want to talk about?
Um, Honestly, I think you nailed it with Denver.
I mean, that had to be talked about. I see some people bringing
Yeah,
up Halliburton in the comment section. He's not been good either. What do you have, 0 against the Knicks?
yeah, it was like 0 for 8 from the floor, like 0 of 7 from 3-point line, if I'm not mistaken.
I got to see how he did
Um,
yesterday. I know his numbers weren't that great. The assist numbers have been horrible for Halliburton lately, but against the Sixers yesterday, he had 22 points on 8 of 18, so he shot better. Only 2 assists, so I don't really know what's going on. It seems like Nemhart's now like the de facto point guard because he had
yeah.
8 assists in that game. So maybe it's just the style of offense that Carlisle's running, and he kind of wants Nemhart to be the main facilitator now. But
Mhm.
yeah, the books have to adjust to the Halliburton assists because right now they are way too high. His assist totals haven't even been close to hitting so far this season.
Yeah, and I think the only maybe other team, Milwaukee, may be the concern there, but
I think Doc Rivers is a joke, but Middleton's
yeah,
injured, so that's a factor. I mean, your third best player is getting paid a decent amount of money. He's not playing, so I got to factor
yeah.
that in.
And defensively, they're giving up 119 points per game over their first 3 games here. Like you mentioned, they did lose yesterday to the Brooklyn Nets. Again, maybe a look ahead spot as to who they have tonight on their schedule here. But
It
yeah,
depends how you view the Bucks, though. I mean, like if you view them as being a serious contender in the Eastern Conference, then sure, it's a big deal. I haven't taken the Bucks seriously for multiple years, and I think the Dame trade has not really worked out. And
mhm.
defensively, he's still terrible. I think he's one of the worst defensive guards in the entire league. I don't take Milwaukee seriously. I think they're a second round elimination team. as far as I'm concerned. So them struggling early against the Nets, yes, it's a look-ahead spot. They'll look better probably tonight against Boston.
Yeah.
I am not surprised that we've seen a pretty underwhelming start to their season with Doc Rivers as their head coach. And I think most people don't think Doc Rivers is any good.
And I think that's exactly what it is for. I don't think any of us are really Doc Rivers guys because he's holding on to that 2008 NBA title which was 16 years ago now.
Yeah.
As his kind of, I guess, quote unquote trophy on
When he
why everybody
retires,
thinks he's a great coach.
regardless of wins, when he retires, I think most people will view him as being one of the worst coaches to ever get inducted into the Hall of Fame. He's going to get into the Hall of Fame because he has that many wins, he has a title, I get it. But when you think of, or when you like talk to your kids down the road, like, oh yeah, Doc Rivers, what was he like? It's going to be mostly negative. You're just going to be like, oh no, he was horrible. Yeah. Isn't that how most people would describe Doc Rivers?
Yeah, and I think a lot of people for Doc Rivers, it's really about what he hasn't been able to do in the postseason since he won that title with the Boston Celtics there. So
3 separate 3-1 blown leads. It's never been done before.
Yep. I think there was one more point I wanted to bring up, but I completely went over my head. But we got a big schedule here tonight in the association. A lot of great matchups here, Scott. But before we get into it here, just want to thank everybody in the not only the chat, but also our supporters of the NBA Gambling Podcast. Without you guys, this show wouldn't be able to grow from year over year and where it started here. So definitely appreciate you guys that tune in with us every single day here. And if you guys just do us a favor, head over to Spotify, give us a 5-star rating. Only you can prevent corporate gambling from taking over. All right, Scott, let's get into it here for tonight in the association. Like I mentioned, a lot of great matchups here to start the week here on Monday. And we'll start here with the first game on the board, which will be the Indiana Pacers. They are in Orlando to take on the Magic. Currently, as it stands, the Magic are a 6.5-point favorite with a total of 224 in this game. Looking at the injury report, Indiana is on a back-to-back situation, but they have that extra time to submit that injury report, so nothing officially just yet for them. For the Orlando Magic, Franz Wagner, Jonathan Isaac, and Goga Bitadze are all questionable here today for the Orlando Magic here. But Magic currently laying 6.5 points at home against the Indiana Pacers. What are you thinking about this game?
I'm going to go with the Magic. I think it's a great spot. Pacers off an overtime game. They ended up losing a heartbreaker there. Shout out to Maxey, who takes all the shots imaginable. But nice win there in overtime. He had 45 points. Point is, though, it's a really bad spot. You played in Indiana yesterday. Now you're traveling to Orlando, and you had an overtime game. And Orlando's also really good. Like, I think Orlando is a very solid team. Yes, they ended up kind of no-showing their last game. It happens, but I do think this team defensively is great. I think they'll have a lot of, I'd say, solid defensive game plans in store for Halliburton and company, but it's mostly fatigue. A lot of guys played a lot of minutes, and I'm not going to overreact to a road game against Memphis where they lost. We think Memphis is going to be pretty good. So I'll go with Orlando, play the theme song. Give me Orlando to win this game by 10.
Yeah, I like Orlando here as well. And also the Pacers have the the Celtics on deck as well. And I feel like these teams that are going to be going up against Boston, that they have them on deck. I think that's something to be something to look at because it's a very, very small sample. But at least the two teams that were looking ahead of Boston both lost outright and didn't cover the spread. I think yesterday was a big indication of where Milwaukee was in that game. Maybe again looking ahead tonight to the Boston Celtics. I believe this game, I don't think it's on national TV, but it may be on NBA TV. But the Pacers and the Celtics matchup, I believe, on Wednesday, and that's going to be on the 4-letter network on national TV there. So it seems like the teams may have figured out the Pacers here a little bit, especially with the pace they're playing at. Hallie has been a shell of himself as well. But yeah, I do like the spot here for Orlando. I think Orlando last season was one of the better teams, not only covering the spread, Scott, but also as a home favorite. 22-6 last season were the Orlando Magic as a home favorite, 78.6%. So I'll take that to the bank every single time. You have any thoughts on the total here?
It's a bit tricky because I could see Orlando lighting it up offensively. I think I prefer Magic team total over Pacers team total under because the Magic defensively are so damn good. Of course, I want to know if Isaac's going to play because defensively he is worth so much. I know that he doesn't play many minutes, but he's such a game wrecker when he's in the game. And of course, he can't really shoot. So he's a dream under player to have on the floor. I'll just go with the, once again, Magic team total over and Pacers team total under. This game might be a rout. if you factor in the scheduling spot with the back-to-back angle, I got to imagine Orlando, after getting killed by Memphis on the road last game, they can blow this team out. I think Orlando might win this game comfortably.
Yeah, it's also what you mentioned, the great point that you brought up, that they are coming off of the overtime game yesterday against the Sixers there, now
That's
having
not
to
a good
also
team either.
travel.
We saw the Sixers lose to Toronto. You still have no George and no Embiid. That's a really
Yeah.
bad game to lose at home.
Yeah, 100%. All right, anything else for this game?
Not really. If you wanted to go for some props potentially, I don't mind the Halliburton under assists, actually. Orlando's still great at preventing assists. I know that Ja did a good job against them. I expect a better defensive game plan. But it just seems like, conceptually, we've seen Nembhard getting a lot more assist opportunities. And I'm not sure if that's a role thing or just how they're running the offense, but Halliburton's number for assists is still pretty high. And he really hasn't done much. He had 2 assists in an overtime game. His number's at 6.5. The under is plus 110. He's gone under in every game this year. In fact, he hasn't even had 6 in any games this year. I'll go with the under 6.5 assists for Halliburton.
Yeah, couldn't talk you off of that. It's something, I don't know if there's something going on with Halliburton or teams that maybe figured out defensively, but it doesn't get easier going up against a Magic defense here tonight. I'll mention this, going back to last season for the Indiana Pacers on back-to-back situations, 3-10 straight up and 3-10 against the spread, 8-5 towards the over in those back-to-back spots for the Indiana Pacers. All right, Chris. Scott, let's move it along here to the next game on the board. We've got the Cleveland Cavaliers. They are in Madison Square Garden to take on the New York Knicks. Knicks currently laying 2.5 points here with a total of 223.5. Looking at the injury report for both of these teams, Max Strus, we know, continues to be out with the right ankle injury. Imani Bates also on the two-way deal with G League. That's pretty much it for the Cavs. For the New York Knicks, the usual suspects, Precious Achiuwa, Mitchell Robinson are both out. Miles McBride is probable here tonight, and then also Josh Hart is listed questionable as he's dealing with a right ankle injury. So keep your eyes and ears open on the status of Josh Hart, who's officially right now listed as questionable. Cavs right now sitting at 3-0 through their first 3 games. You're averaging 128 points per game. The New York Knicks we saw on opening night against the Boston Celtics, who knocked down 29 3-point shots, lost that game, but then came back in their home opener for the season and ran the Pacers out of the gym there in a huge victory there. But Scott, what are you thinking about the Cavs and the Knicks here tonight?
Yeah, it's a tricky game. We're about 2 games in, and Josh Hart already got injured. So we'll see what happens with the rest of the roster. Thibodeau going to do Thibodeau things. For this matchup, I think I'm going to go with the Knicks. I don't feel great about it because I do like the home court advantage. Not going to roast them for getting killed by Boston. It happens. Boston went nuts from 3. You bounce back. You killed Indiana at home in your second game. Cleveland has been great. They won all 3 games by at least 12 points. However, they faced off against the Wizards, the Pistons, and the Raptors. So I can't really judge
The
this
3
team.
worst teams maybe in the East.
Potentially. So, like, it's not their fault. They had to gift them a schedule to start the season, but the offensive numbers, I think, are a bit inflated based on schedule. I do think the Knicks will look sharp at home again with the crowd. It's a close game. I see it coming down to the wire, but I do think the Knicks outlast them. I think Brunson has a very solid game in this one. Josh Hart I do love a lot, so it's going to be difficult to potentially bet the Knicks personally if he's not going to play. So I'll wait to see injury report stuff. But the Cavs have been great. I think it's pretty telling, though, that with them winning all 3 games in blowout fashion, they're still dogs in this game.
Yeah.
I think their record's been very, very padded by how easy their first 3 opponents were. Yeah. So it's a step of a competition, and I think that might maybe take a quarter or 2 to actually adjust to. But give me the Knicks at home. I like what I see from the Cavs. They look good, but I got to factor in opponents. So give me the Knicks minus 2.5.
Yeah, I think that this is really what's going to come down to is you're on the inside the paint, right? Because we talked about the 2 injuries without their 2 big guys for the New York Knicks in Mitchell Robinson and Precious Achiuwa, that Evan Mobley and Jared Allen should be able to really clean up the boards there for the Cleveland Cavaliers and possibly create those second chance opportunities for the Cleveland Cavaliers there. But like you mentioned, like they potentially pay the worst 3 teams to start the schedule here. Have the Cleveland Cavaliers here. Yeah, I think Knicks at home minus 2.5. I think that would be the look here for me as well. Like you mentioned, it's just inflated numbers right now for the Cleveland Cavaliers based on who they've played in their first 3 games here. I more so like the under in this game. I think that defensively, the New York Knicks have again the guys that can really slow down Donovan Mitchell in that backcourt there. And if Cleveland's really able to limit the second chance opportunities here and have the advantage on the glass there and limit to one possession or one shot attempt for the New York Knicks, I think that could really be the difference here on the total here at 223.5. So I know, like you mentioned, they've been averaging 128 points per game, but this is going to be obviously the best defensive team that they'll run into here in game 4 here. So I think my more favorite play in this game is going to be under 223.5.
Yeah, I don't really know if I agree with you on that total or not. So I'm not going to probably bet it. I'm looking at the over personally because Cleveland is still shooting a bunch of threes. The spacing's been a lot better with Atkinson. I
Yeah.
like him as a coach. But I think the Knicks offensively are still a solid unit in general. So I think I'll go with the over. I'm probably not going to bet it, but it's a game that I probably will watch from a distance, mostly to just learn about both teams. Cleveland, though, will be tested for the first time this season, so I'm not going
Yeah.
to suddenly overreact to how they've destroyed 3 really bad teams. The Knicks got killed by Boston. They bounced back in a game they kind of needed, but Indiana might not be that good. We'll see what happens. So I'm going to watch this game. I'll evaluate. I don't want to watch Daniel Jones, so I'll watch this instead, probably tonight. So, yeah, no offense to Russell Wilson and Daniel Jones, but I'll probably be watching this instead. I'll go with the Knicks, but it's more of a game that I'm going to try to learn from for future games down the road.
All right. All right. Before we get over to the next game on the schedule, let me tell everyone about our friends over at Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Pick'em has one of the biggest menus for all sports: NFL, college football, MLB, MMA, NBA, NASCAR, and more. Boostober is upon us, which means you're getting a spooky amount of profit boosts and much more. You can now use specials and boosts on all flex entries. So sign up with promo code NBASGPN to claim your special pick and first-time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Make sure you use that promo code NBASGPN. All right, Scott, let's keep it rolling here. Next game on the schedule here, we'll go over to the Milwaukee Bucks. They are taking on the Boston Celtics, 7:40 Eastern start time. The Celtics are a 9.5-point home favorite here with a total of 232.5. Looking at the injury report for both of these teams, Milwaukee did play yesterday, so they do get that additional time to submit that injury report. For the Boston Celtics, Sam Hauser is officially listed as questionable. He's dealing with a lower back injury. And of course, we know Kristaps Porzingis is going to be missing the foreseeable future right now as he recovers from surgery for the Boston Celtics here. Boston Celtics laying a 9.5 points here. Scott, what are you thinking about the side with this game?
I have no idea because Milwaukee was so bad against the Nets, but it's such a perfect look-ahead spot for Doc Rivers, especially we've seen it with Doc Rivers before, where they get their asses kicked by a team they probably should beat, and they get together the next game and win outright. Like, I've seen this before. It wouldn't shock me if Milwaukee put together a good effort. Boston, I don't know what the hell that game was against the Pistons. They led by 20, then they trailed, and they came back and they won the game. It was a very weird game, but they managed to pull it out.
Yeah.
I think I just prefer the over. I like points in this game. Boston's going to shoot a bunch of threes. Milwaukee can't guard the three-point line from what I saw yesterday against the Nets. So Boston could score 120 plus in this game, maybe even 130 if Milwaukee defensively doesn't bring it. Milwaukee, though, can still score. They got some shot makers on the team. I'll go with the over. For the side, I guess I'd lean Boston, but I've seen this Doc Rivers movie too many times. So I'm not going to get burned on it, or at least I'm going to, in my mind, not risk getting burned on it. Give me the over instead. I just see points in this game.
Yeah, initially it was Milwaukee plus the 9.5, like you mentioned. I'm not sure that even clearly they are the best team, not only in the East, but I mean in the NBA. But should they be laying the 9.5 here? I think what you mentioned about that Cavs and the Knicks game being a good indication about where the Cavs are at. I think this is a good indication of where we think the Bucks are at as well, right? I think last night we talked about it. It was a look ahead spot for them. Boston has scored 120 plus points in all 3 games thus far. They had 132 against the Knicks, 122 against the Wizards. Pistons had 120, or they scored 124 against the Pistons there as well. So I think the 3-pointers are going to continue flying. We know the type of offense that the Celtics want to play, get up a whole bunch of 3-point shots, and they're making them as well. So yeah, I agree about the over in this game. Casey mentioning the Boston team total over. I really couldn't talk you off of that just because of the way they play and like to shoot the 3-point shot. And even if the guys, their main starters go to the bench. Used to have guys coming off that bench that can score the basketball as well for the Boston Celtics there. So, yeah, I think the over is a look for me. I agree with you about that. Boston team total over there as well. Pace, I think, is going to be there in this game here for the Celtics and the Bucks here. So over for me in this game. Initially, Bucks plus 9.5 would be the first click if you had a gun to my head as far as a side here. Anything else for this game here, Scott?
Not really. Tatum's been great, so I don't mind a Tatum PRA. You can argue for points alone, but he's been good in a lot of areas. Props to him. He got, I don't want to say snubbed in the Olympics for playing time, but I think it was deserved. I didn't think he should have played that much in the Olympics. He wasn't very good in the finals. That's why he didn't win Finals MVP. And he came out and said, you know what? I'm gonna have a revenge tour, and he's been very good. So I don't mind Tatum PRA.
Yeah, I'm sure at some point we're going to see that regression like we always or usually do from.
But so far, he came out
JT,
firing, and he fixed his 3-point shot, so that's all that matters.
Yeah, 100%. All right, let's keep it rolling here to the next game on the schedule. We'll go over to the Denver Nuggets. They are in Canada to take on the Toronto Raptors. Line currently in this game, the Denver Nuggets are a 9-point road favorite with a total of 221. Injury report for both of these teams. For the Denver Nuggets, nothing of significance on there. Just guys that are on two-way deals with the G League. For the Toronto Raptors, RJ Barrett is officially listed as questionable. Bruce Brown is going to be out. Kelly Olynyk is out as well. And Emmanuel Quickley is listed as doubtful for this game. He has a hip injury that he's dealing with. So just a questionable tag on RJ Barrett. We'll see if he's able to play in this game here tonight. He also has a shoulder injury that he's dealing with right now. We talked about the Denver Nuggets earlier in the episode here, but they are laying 9 points on the road here, Scott. What are you thinking about the Nuggets and the Raptors?
So I said in the off-season show that I do not think the Raptors are any good. I think they're going to be a bad team. I have their win total under. However, they beat Philly. That counts for something. Played Minnesota the game after, lost by 11. Yeah, fine, I guess. Denver hasn't played a road game yet. They got killed by Oklahoma City. They ended up losing to the Clippers as well by 5. I got to go Toronto plus the points.
Yeah.
Denver, as far as I'm concerned, they can't score. The spacing's horrible because nobody can shoot on this team. And defensively, they've been okay, but not amazing. Toronto is not a good team, but they can score. They can score some points. It's mostly just looking at Denver and how they're playing. If they blew out Toronto, would I be shocked? No, because I think that Toronto's bad, but I can't back this Denver team. I think they're overvalued based on how they've been performing. And I think that the odds makers are going to look at Jokic and his numbers. He had 40 last game. They should beat this team. Maybe, but I'd rather keep fading them until I'm wrong than backing them until I'm right. So I'll go with Denver fading once again. This team just looks off right now. There might be a play-in team. They could win the game and not cover. I do think it might be a close game, but Denver, they got problems. I'm not backing a team with problems to win by about 10 points. I can't do it. I'll go with Toronto at home.
Yeah, I need to see it before I can back the Denver Nuggets here, like we talked about at the top of the episode here. 9 is a lot, man. I know the Toronto Raptors, they got blown out in that first game against the Cavs, but they won straight up. I know that was without Paul George and Joel Embiid for the Philadelphia 76ers, but it's got the 8-point victory there. We're hanging around that game against the T-Wolves. They did, in fact, end up covering the number, which was around 13.5, 14.5. But again, with this Denver Nuggets team, again, we talked about it a lot. I think the one play I'd like in this game is number one, yes, the +9 here, but I think it'll just be Jokic rebounds. He's going to have to be out there, number one, because he's pretty much the only consistent offense for this Denver Nuggets team. But his last two matchups last season against his Toronto Raptors team, he had 31 points and 15 rebounds, and then 35 points, 17 rebounds, and 12 assists. So if you want to go points and rebounds over, or if you just want to play the rebounds alone, I think it's a good game here for Nikola Jokic as far as dominating inside the paint here. As far as a player prop, I do like in this game. Anything else as far as a total here, Scott, or any player prop you're looking at?
Yeah, just give me Joker triple-double at +240. 240 is way too high. If this was a matchup in a month or two, this would be +150. I think that looking at this matchup, you mentioned the numbers last year. He did have the same amount of potential assists in both meetings. So he did finish with 6 assists in the first game. He had 16 potential. Second meeting, he had 12 assists on 16 potential as well. The rebounds are there. I mean, you mentioned that he averaged 16 rebounds per game last year against this team. You could go for PRA if you want to. It's at 48.5. I don't hate it, but he kills Toronto. 240. I think that's a great price. Give me Joker triple-double.
Yeah. Yeah, couldn't talk you off of that. Just going to mention one more note here for Nikola Jokic. He's at 38.5 on his PR, but again, I think the value's definitely there at plus
He went over
240.
in points alone last game, so why
Yeah.
not?
So I think that, again, if we start seeing those triple doubles starting to rack up here, what was it last season? We're getting close to like minus prices, like around plus 115 for Nikola Jokic at the latter part of the season. But yeah, couldn't talk you off of that here for Nikola Jokic in this.
And he already
game.
had one. He had one against Oklahoma City, I think. Already.
Yeah, he did. All right, Scott, let's get over to the next game on the schedule here. We'll go over to the Detroit Pistons. They are taking on the Miami Heat. The note was that Giannis is now listed probable here tonight, so it seems like he's going to be playing here for the Milwaukee Bucks. Pistons, they are in South Beach to take on the Miami Heat. Heat currently laying 8.5 points in this game with a total of 219.5. Injury report for both of these teams. For the Detroit Pistons, Stuart Thompson is out. He is returning from return to competition reconditioning is the official classification. And for the Miami Heat, pretty clean injury report. Nobody is out except for Kevin Love, who is dealing with some personal reasons, is the official classification. 8.5 is the number for the home team here, Miami Heat. What are you thinking about this spread here, Scott?
First thought, Pistons to cover, maybe even money line. I can't trust Miami. Now, I want to ask you about Detroit, though, because they fired Monty Williams and they're 0-3. But they faced off against Indiana. They were competitive. Faced off against Cleveland. Cleveland so far has been very good this season. And they faced off against Boston, and they were winning in the fourth quarter. So they're 0-3, but they're kind of the opposite of the Cavs. They faced off against good competition. Like, I feel like I can't really criticize the Pistons for that. Now, as for the Heat, we saw them beat the Hornets. I believe the Hornets were on a back-to-back in that game. Got killed by Orlando at home, and they ended up beating Memphis on the road. Is this just another year of blindly fading the Heat at home? Because it feels that way. I'll go with the points. This feels too big to me. I see it being a close game. Cade's been solid. Butler, we know, has been a bit underwhelming to start the season. But it's mostly just based on the Heat. Even the 2 games they've won, they haven't won a game yet by 9+ points. This line feels too high to me. Give me Detroit to keep this game competitive. I know we faded the Heat all the time at home for the last couple of years. Terrell and I have. We've made a lot of money. Mm-hmm. Why would I assume Miami's going to blow this team out when they never blow anybody out at home? I'll go with the Pistons plus the points.
Yeah, I like Detroit here as well. I did take Detroit. I think it was against the Cavs. Early on, they were very, very competitive in that game until they pulled away. Did the Cleveland Cavaliers.
They can't close, but they've played well for about 30+ minutes in these games. That count.
Yeah. So I like the plus points here as well on the Detroit Pistons, plus 8.5, like you mentioned. Put a little bit on that money line there as well. Miami's just looking like a shell of themselves, or they're looking old, I guess you can say, right? This will be their third game. They've given up 111 points on average in the first 2 games. They gave up 100, and let's see here. Gotta go all the way back. So that's preseason. So they had the Orlando Magic where they gave up 116 to, and then they went on the road in the Terry Rozier revenge game, and they gave up 106 and won that game by 8 there. But I think Pistons can keep it a competitive here. If you want to go first half Pistons, I couldn't talk you off of that. But I do like the Piston sides here with Scott at plus 8.5. Any thoughts on the total 219.5?
I think I'm going to go with the under, but I don't feel great about it. I think I'd rather just take the actual side.
Yeah, I really didn't have much for the total. I think it could go either way, so I'm not going to force a pick there. But yeah, 100% agree on this side here. And the props you're looking at in this game?
I mean, I saw somebody mention Cade PRA. If I'm picking the Pistons to have a shot to win the game, then I think I have to consider it. I might actually go with a Tim Hardaway fade here. His rebounds and assists are at 5.5. He hasn't been close so far this season. So I like the under on that. Very niche prop, but 5.5 rebounds and assists. The under is about minus 135. 3 games this season is at less than 5 in each game. Including last year, he's gone under in 20 straight games. So I'll go with the under for Tim Hardaway Jr. RA at 5.5.
All right. All right, before we get over to the next game on the schedule here, let me tell everyone about our friends over at Rhythm. SGPN's proud partner Rhythm is the number one AI powered back betting platform that helps provide bettors of all levels the ability to build custom predictive betting models in seconds and get predictions for betting on money lines, spreads, totals, and props. Build your own model, copy one of the top performing models from the leaderboard, or press build a model for me, and Rhythm gives you predictions for every game and player prop and also has a myriad of stats, research, and trend analysis to give you even more betting insights. Plus, Rhythm's NBA models are now live. Claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. And Ross, we're brought to you by BetUS. Bet with the best in the business. BetUS. BetUS has been around for more than 30 years. You can easily deposit using cryptocurrency and get lightning fast payouts. BetUS is live with a trick or treat on Horror Street. From now until Halloween, BetUS will be offering daily promotions and a raffle entry to win a sports or casino prize pack that they will give away on October 31st. You can now enter multiple times, and for every $200 that you deposit at BetUS, you get one entry. Go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/BetUS. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/BetUS. Promo code SGPN so they know that we sent you. BetUS, America's favorite sports book. All right, Scott, let's keep it rolling here. Let's get over to the next game on the schedule here. We'll go over to the Washington Wizards. They are taking on the Atlanta Hawks in this matchup. Hawks currently laying 7 points at home against the Wizards with a total of 234.5. Looking at the injury report for both of these teams here, let me start here with the Wizards. Sadiq Bey is going to be out as he recovers from the ACL surgery. Malcolm Brogdon also continues to be out with the right thumb injury that he suffered. Atlanta did play yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. They do get that extra time to submit that injury report. And they had a game yesterday, I believe it was against
Oklahoma
OKC.
City killed them.
Yeah, they got run out of the gym, especially in that second half there. So get that extra time. But 7 is a number here, Scott, against the Wizards. What are you thinking?
I think I got to go with Atlanta. I don't feel great about it. Maybe a team total over. I don't mind the over in the game in general, but I'm not going to roast Atlanta for getting killed at OKC. That's one of the best teams in the league. That's one thing I didn't mention before when you asked me for some takeaways of the season. I think Boston and OKC are really good, which we knew going in, but OKC looks incredible. I'm not going to roast the Hawks for losing that one. I see points here. The Wizards are terrible. I told you I thought the Wizards would be even worse than the Nets. Nets have a win. Just saying. The Wizards are bad. They are really, really bad, and they play bad basketball, but we knew that going in. So I feel like I'm going to auto-fade the Wizards, but if Atlanta messes around, we know that they were very bad ATS last year, and they haven't been great this year either. So I am aware of the potential concerns there, but Washington hasn't played any good teams. They haven't played any bad teams yet. They lost to the Cavs by 19, lost to Boston by 20. So I haven't seen them against average competition, but I know they're bad. I'll tell you that much. So I'll go with Atlanta, probably the over in this game. I just see points. I don't see any defense. Trey could go for, I don't even know, 30 and 10, 30 and 15. Like, he can go for a crazy monster game. Just give me points, and I'll go with the Hawks to score more of them. So give me the Hawks to cover, but I also like the over. This game might push 240. It wouldn't surprise anybody if that's what we got.
Yeah, I see that. At least in the first 2 games here, the Wizards have given up 122 points to the Celtics in their home opener, and then they gave up 135 to the Cavs the other night on Saturday in that game there. So, and last year, the Hawks on back-to-back situations, 6-9 straight up, 5-10 against the spread, 9-6 towards the over. And if they were at home in those situations on back-to-back, 6-5 straight up, 7-4 towards the over in those spots here. But yeah. Initially, my first click in this game was Hawks team total over. It's just going to be, again, really, really bad defense for the Washington Wizards throughout the season. I think that's something that I want to continue banking on. Not comfortable laying the 7 here with the Atlanta Hawks, but will be surprised if they won by 10 plus points? Absolutely not, just because we do expect this Wizards team to be the worst in the entire association. Hawks yesterday gave up 128 to the Oklahoma City Thunder. Obviously, this Wizard team is nowhere close to what the Thunder are. Not even in that same conversation there. But I do think that they can give up points here to the Atlanta Hawks. So Hawks team total over would be my favorite look in this game. If you want to take full game over as well, couldn't talk you off of that. But as far as a side here, not really comfortable either side of it. So well, I'm not going to force a pick there. Anything else for this game here, Scott?
Not really. Said before, Trey might have a monster game. His assists are 10.5. I don't mind that. I'll keep fading Alex Sarr. I know he's a rookie and he's going to try to figure it out, but damn, he's not any good. At least from what I've seen so far. So I don't mind going with an under on Sarr. He has blocked some shots, though, so the blocks have been a positive, but his points are at 7.5. He had 12 last game against Cleveland. Pulling up his numbers, though, in that game, he had 12 points, 6 rebounds, 1 assist. So he played better second time around, was 4 of 10 from the floor. He still shoots way too many threes. He can't shoot, but he hasn't really learned that yet for some reason. I don't really like Sarr in this matchup. I think he might get into some foul trouble, but I'm not a big fan of his game so far in his young career. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if I want to go for anything for the Hawks besides that. Do I trust Capella more? Do I trust Okonkwo more? I think one of them has a solid game. Maybe both. I got to figure out which one. But you have any preference out of the two?
I think it's a Okonkwo for me. Coming off the bench is really providing that spark. And I think that if this game does turn into a blowout, I think you see a Okonkwo out there more than you would see Capella out there.
Yeah, I think I'd be in line to agree with you there. I am wondering if I want to go for something Dyson Daniels related, though, because he has been solid for this team. Rebounds, he had a good game against OKC, wasn't doing much before that. Sorry, just looking. I might not mind. Wait, what were you going to ask?
I was going to mention his steals and blocks, but go ahead.
I was going to mention his steals only at minus 129. He's had at least 2 steals in 3 of the last 4 games. So I think that he's been playing pretty well. We know the Wizards turn the ball over a ton. Don't mind Daniels to get some steals at 1.5 minus 129.
Would you see his 3-point prop?
Yes. So looking at his threes, 1.5 plus 145 on the over. He's had 2 in 2 of the last 3 games.
Yeah, the only one obviously was yesterday against the Oklahoma City Thunder, but we know defensively that team is going to be the best the entire league. So there, I think there are a couple of props there. Yeah, that's a good call on the Dyson Daniel ones, because I noticed in that first game the season he did have 5 steals and a block, and he's recorded at least 1-1 in each of the first 3 games here for the Atlanta Hawks. All right, let's keep it moving here. Let's get over to the next game on the board. We'll go over to the Chicago Bulls. They are visiting the Memphis Grizzlies in this game. Grizzlies are laying 6.5 points with a total of 233. Looking at the injury report for both of these teams. For the Chicago Bulls, Lonzo Ball is available to play in this game. And that is the only name of significance for the Chicago Bulls. For the Memphis Grizzlies, they will be without Gigi Jackson, Luke Kennard, and Vince Williams Jr. Questionable tags on John Conchar and John Moran. Moran is dealing with right thigh soreness in this game. But Grizzlies laying 6.5 at home, hosting the Chicago Bulls here. Scott, what are your thoughts on this game?
My initial thoughts are simple. Is Ja ever going to be healthy?
I don't know, man.
I feel like we do the same thing every year with Memphis. They already have 4 guys ruled out and 2 that are questionable. It's game 4 of the season. Like, you guys got to stay healthy at some point. I know we call out Zion all the time, but damn, Ja's never healthy. We'll see what happens. I can't really back Memphis until I know if Ja's playing or not. Do I think Chicago's good? No, I don't. It's either Memphis or pass. But if Ja's not going to play, I'd look for the under. But I really can't bet this because Ja's that important to this team. If he's out, give me the Bane props. I'll take the Bane points. I know that Jaren Jackson is coming back as well, which should help out.
Yep.
But I think you're looking at, once again, a huge question mark because Ja does everything for this team. He's the playmaker. He's the main scorer for this team. The assists have been good this season, but he's questionable again, which isn't shocking. So I'll go with Memphis, I guess, but there's no way I can bet this, right? I'm going to have to wait for Ja information.
Yeah, and I was going to keep this one simple. If Ja's in, I like Memphis here. If I don't, like you mentioned, it's a pass for me. Memphis, in fact, their first 3 games, they are 3-0 towards the over. And the Chicago Bulls defensively, they gave up 123 to the Pelicans. They gave up 122 to the Bucks. They gave up 114 to the Thunder in their last game on Saturday there. So if Ja's in, I like the team total over for the Memphis Grizzlies. But again, that's going to be the key component in this game. That the main handicap for us is that wait on the status for Ja, because right now, as we're recording, officially listed as questionable with right thigh soreness for the Memphis Grizzlies. But yeah, Jaren Jackson Jr., like Scott mentioned, will be back here tonight after missing the first couple games here for the Memphis Grizzlies. So
for
keep
other
it
reference,
simple.
by the way, touching upon that, for future seasons, I probably can't bet Memphis over win totals. They might get there, but it's so frustrating. This team's always injured. It's a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
It's not worth my time.
I think they're the new Miami Heat because like prior to last year, we were going through the Miami Heat injury report. Like every other guy was going to be out, but last season for Grizzlies, it was like their injury report was like 10 players deep, and it was just us figuring out, all right, who the hell is going to start for this game, because they were pulling guys like literally off like the off the streets to come in and play meaningful minutes for this
It's so
team.
frustrating though, because it's like,
it
oh
is.
no, they're supposed to be good. It's like, no, they should be, but nobody's ever actually able to get on the court.
Yeah, it makes it hard to handicap the games as well, right? Like you mentioned, because even right now, we don't know if Ja Morant's going to play in this game here or not. All right, let's keep it moving here. Let's get over to the next game on the board. We got the Houston Rockets. They are in San Antonio to take on the Spurs. Spurs currently laying 2.5 in this game with a total of 219. Looking at the injury report, Steven Adams is questionable for the Rockets. And that is pretty much it for the Houston side of things. For the San Antonio Spurs, they will be without Trey Jones, who's dealing with a right ankle sprain, and Devin Vassell continues to be out for the Spurs team here as well. So they'll be a little bit thin at that point guard position, expecting maybe more minutes here from Chris Paul. But these two teams did play, I believe it was on Saturday, against each other in San Antonio. The Spurs did win that game 109-106, so a bit of an immediate revenge spot here for the Houston Rockets. But Spurs laying 2.5 here in this game. I'm sorry, it's a Rockets laying 2.5. Let me correct that on the screen. So Rockets are laying 2.5 in this game here, Scott. But what are your thoughts on this game between the Rockets and the Spurs?
I think I am going to go with Houston. Even though Houston on the road is not as good as Houston at home, we know this, and San Antonio did win the last meeting. They almost blew a 22-point lead. They were blowing this team out, and then they almost punted the entire thing in the fourth quarter. But San Antonio was great offensively. Shot 49+% from the floor, 40% from three. They shot 82% from the foul line. They dominated the rebounds, 49-34. They dominated every aspect of the game, and they still almost lost the game. That's not the most encouraging outcome, at least based on margin. With lines like that, you figured that they would be able to win by like double digits, and they almost blew the entire game. I think I'm going to go with Houston to bounce back. Game was close. Şengün was awful. He had 6 points, 5 rebounds. I think he'll play better in this one. Just seemed like Houston offensively couldn't get much going for the first half. Scored 10 points in the entire second quarter. They scored 65, though, in the second half. So they might have found something. Maybe San Antonio just stopped trying. But point is, Wemby had a monster game, actually shot the ball well, and I can see that regressing. I'm going to go with the Rockets here. They just lost to this team on the road. Now they're favored in the immediate rematch. They're daring you to take San Antonio. I'm not going to do it. Give me Houston. I think maybe they found something in that second half.
Yeah, it's actually what you mentioned, right? They only scored 10 points in that second quarter after a
They were great in the
start.
other quarters, though.
Yeah, so I think, again, if they would have scored 4 more points, we'll be having a different conversation right now about this Rockets team that had gotten the victory on Saturday instead of losing that game here. So, yeah, Rockets for me, -2.5. Usually when we see these type of immediate revenge situations, or these teams that are playing that like back-to-back consecutive games approach, I usually like to take the team that's lost that first game. So the Rockets -2.5. I think Şengün, like you mentioned, should bounce back here in this game.
It's like a doubleheader in baseball.
Yeah, so -2.5 here for the Rockets for me. You have anything on the total?
Total, I think I'll have to go with the over. I know that the last meeting ended up landing at 215, but you had 34 points in a quarter. Every other quarter had at least 53 points. 2 of them ended up breaking 59. I'll go with the over in this one. Total has dropped a lot, as Lewis is mentioning, but I think it's dropped too much. I'll buy the dip. Isn't that what you're supposed to do? Buy the dip?
Yep, buy the dips.
Invest?
Yep.
So I'll buy the dip on the total here.
Props TVDBJ asking about Julian Champagne's over 8.5 points. I do like a prop in this
game. Goes over in every game. So
yeah, he's starting for them, right? Isn't he?
Yes, I believe he's starting for them. Good 3-point shooter.
So couldn't talk you off of that. If you want to also look at his 3-point prop, like Scott just mentioned there, I think a lot of his shots are coming from the 3-point line, if I'm not mistaken here. So he had 18 in that opener against Mavericks. He had 12 against the Rockets. He's also doing a pretty good job of rebounding as well. He had 7 rebounds against the Mavericks and 6 against the Rockets. He's made at least 2 3-point shots in each of the first 2 games. So couldn't talk you off of that. Chris Paul assists at 7.5 here, Scott. I have to play the over there, especially with Trey Jones being out. He's had, I believe, 8 and 9 over the first 2 games for the San Antonio Spurs. He had 8 against the Mavericks and he had 9 against the Rockets there. So I think that would be the play for me. His points, he scored exactly 3 points in each of the first 2 games, which has been 1 3-point shot he's made in each of the first 2 games. But over 7.5 assists would be the look here for me for CP3 as far as player prop. You have anything else?
Yeah, I thought about maybe going for Chris Paul under PA just because the points have been a complete non-factor. Points are 8.5. Shout out to Chris Paul, by the way, last year for the not to score a single 30-point game. And I'm not sure if he broke 20 a single time in the season last year. Yeah, I mean, he can't really move. I mean, we know offensively he's never going to shoot. He's a pure passer at the stage in his career. I feel like the under points have to be a play. 3 points in every game. It's 8.5. He's got a triple what he's averaged so far this season to go over. Yeah, okay, sure. Give me the under 8.5 points.
Yeah, couldn't talk you off of that there for Chris Paul in this game. All right, let's move it along here to the next game on the schedule. We'll go over to the Utah Jazz. They are in Dallas to take on the Mavericks. Mavericks currently laying 11.5 points in this game against the Jazz at home with a total of 232. Looking at the injury report for both of these teams, start here with the Utah Jazz. They will be without, let's see here, Isaiah Collier. He's dealing with a right hamstring strain. Johnny Jusek is also on the injury report with a right thumb sprain. For the Dallas Mavericks, Dante Exum is dealing with the right wrist surgery recovery, and then also Maxi Kleba is going to be questionable here tonight. He has a right hamstring strain for the Mavericks. 11.5 is the number here, Scott, for the Mavericks. What are you thinking about this matchup?
Yeah, so I don't think Utah's that good, but having said that, I don't want to lay 11.5 with this Dallas team. I think Dallas is fine. They're concerned more about winning than actually winning by margin, and we did see them lose to Phoenix pretty handily in the last game. Beat San Antonio by 11, sure, pretty good win there at home, I guess, but I still don't really trust Dallas defensively to get enough stops to actually win by margin, especially late in games. Clay so far in his Dallas career has been fine. Defensively, still not great. We know Luka's not a good defender, and I do think that Dallas is still laying too many points here. Utah can score. They have some options that can score. Of course, you have Kessler protecting the rim, so we'll see if Dallas is going to just be chucking a bunch of threes away. I think 11.5's too many. I think Dallas wins this game, but I really just don't want to lay 12 here, or like lay 11.5. I'd rather take Utah. I'll put it this way. I think there's a better chance of Utah finding a way to cover than Dallas finding a way to cover. So I'll go with the points. I think 11.5 is a bit too steep for me.
Yeah, this Jazz team is a team that really doesn't, give up. I mean, they play the full 48 minutes. Does this Jazz? I believe this is their first road game of the season. They play their first 2 games at home, which was against the who forgot who they played. The Grizzlies.
Well, Golden
they
State
had at home. Yeah, and then Golden State ran him out of the gym there as well. So, yeah, Jazz plus 11.5 for me. I think that this game can stay competitive. And again, it could just take a couple of bad shooting nights from either Kyrie or even Clay. Clay's actually gotten off to a pretty good start here for the Dallas Mavericks, just being in that role where they just need him to chunk up a bunch of threes and hopefully knocks down anywhere from 37 to 40% through the first 2 games here. So he's made 11 3-point shots over the first 2 games here for the Dallas Mavericks. But I think with Lauri Markkanen and those guys there, I think they can keep this game competitive. So plus 11.5 here for me. Everything on the total, 232?
I'm not going to go with an under. I see points. I mean, Utah's given up at least 126 points in both games.
Yeah.
So I have to assume that Utah is going to be able to once again get themselves involved in a high-scoring game. And I think Dallas defensively has been okay, but I think Utah is going to force the pace. So I don't mind over. Once again, I see that two's mentioned the Jazz were terrible on the road. That is true. Then again, they were tanking for the last 4 months of the season, so at least they're trying now. But I'll go with the over. Give me points.
Yeah, 10-31 straight up last season on the road. 18-23 against the spread. They were 23-18 towards the over 56%. 56% towards the over. But like you mentioned, it was really the latter part of the season there where they were pretty much in tank mode. I mean, I think since January, the end of
All-Star break every time.
January, yeah, I think they only covered 5 games against the spread. Rest of the way on the road there, but at least early in the season, I think they can keep it competitive here. Anything else for this game?
Yeah. Overall for the actual matchup, trying to wonder if I want to go for a Luka triple double or not. I already mentioned it with Joker. I don't know if I want it. I could see Luka having a monster game though. It wouldn't shock me if Luka ended up just having a potential 35 piece. I feel like Utah once again has nobody to actually guard him, which is going to be a problem for this team. Clay threes I could be tempted by. I mean, he has been shooting the ball well. Luka to lead the game in points is minus 130. I know it's juice, but I still like it. Like, I don't know who else is going to
Yeah.
score more than Luka's going to. So I think Luka has a master class. So I don't mind Luka having a solid game. But if I was going to actually look at Luka points in this one, it's at 29.5. He had 40 last game. He's been hovering around 28. At least he was in the finals. Then he had 40 in that game against Phoenix. Against Utah, he's at 29, 34, 19, and 40. So once again, he's had some solid games. Quickly looking at the PRA for Luka, I mean, he had a triple double last game against Utah, and he finished with 34, 9, and 8. And then in the other game, he had 19, 6, and 14, and he also had 40, 10, and 11. I think Luka triple double is worth at least discussing, and I think PRA is
Sure.
worth considering. But his triple double for this game is plus 333. Sure. If this matchup was a couple months later, it'd probably be once again in the 2-1 range, maybe 250, but 333, that feels a bit high to me. Give me Luka to have a great game.
Yeah, Jazz are. I mean, it's only a 2-game sample, but fourth worst 3-point defense, allowing teams to shoot close to 39% from beyond the arc. Clay's 3-point probably set at 4.5. Scott, I don't think I can.
Yeah,
get
that's
there
why I
with
can't
that. I know
take it.
he's. Yeah, he's made 5 each in the first 2 games, but again, it could just take one game like we've seen for him to have a really bad shooting night and just goes downhill from there. But at least for the first 2 games for Dallas, he looks like he's found his form here, and again, just finding his role here with this Mavericks team, and happy to see that for Clay Thompson. All right, anything else for this game?
No, I think I'm set. The only player I do really like for Utah in general is Markkanen. But like the question is, do
Yeah.
I think that he would have a monster game? I mean, based on the matchup, he should have a decent game. But I thought about maybe going Kessler. I don't know if I'm going to, but no, I think I'm basically done.
Yeah, well, I'm curious to see what I'll dive in a little bit more Walker Kessler's numbers, but he's a guy that's really been in foul trouble
Yeah.
in his career or early part of the season here as well, and in his career. Marketing points again, I couldn't really talk off of anyone off of that. I think that he's their primary scorer, obviously here for the Utah Jazz. All right, let's get over to the
He'd
next
be
game.
talked about. He'd be talked about so much more if he was on an actually relevant team.
Yeah, I
He's a
agree
really good
100%.
player, and nobody cares. It's a shame.
Yeah. All right, let's get over to the next game on the schedule. 2 games left here. We'll go over to the LA Lakers. They are in Phoenix to take on the Suns. Suns currently laying 4 points in this game with a total of 228.5. Looking at the injury report for both of these teams. For the Lakers, Jalen Hood-Schifino is going to be out. He's on G League assignment. Usual suspects of Jared Vanderbilt and Christian Wood are also out for this game here as well. For the Phoenix Suns, Josh Okogie out, and questionable tag on Bradley Beal. He's dealing with right elbow soreness here. These 2 teams just matched up the other night in Los Angeles. Lakers coming from behind in the second half there to get the victory there against the Phoenix Suns. That game ended up with a final score of 123-116. Offensively, the Lakers look great. Defensively, they look pretty good here as well. JJ Redick, at least for the first 3 games, is doing a fantastic job right now for this Lakers team. But now going on the road in their first road game of the season for the LA Lakers, catching 4 points against Phoenix. What are you thinking about this game here, Scott?
Yeah, so the Lakers, as you said before, are undefeated. They were down 22 in that game to Phoenix, came back and they won it. So nice comeback there. Looking at the overall schedule, not the best spot. 3 games in 4 nights, and LeBron was out a triple double last game against Sacramento. So I do acknowledge it is a bad spot. I get why Phoenix is favored, but damn, I really don't like this Phoenix team. Yes, they beat Dallas comfortably. I get it. But watching them play with Budenholzer as the coach compared to Vogel, don't they look pretty much the exact same? Maybe some like detailed stuff involving the offensive sets they're running, but it feels like with the mentality of this team, there's just a softness that's there. It just feels like they're not as tough as I'd want them to be, both physically and mentally. And we saw that against the Lakers because we've seen Vogel and the Suns lose that exact same game multiple times last year, and the same thing happened with Budenholzer. So I haven't really noticed much of a difference. You could argue about some technical stuff involving offensive sets once again, X's and O's stuff, but mentally they just feel pretty weak. But I think based on scheduling spot, I think I am going to go Phoenix. I don't feel great about it. Probably not going to bet it, but I think you're looking at Phoenix bouncing back. They should have won that game against the Lakers. They were up 22 and they fell apart. They shot the ball well. The Lakers were unconscious from three. They also attempted 22 more free throws, so hopefully that's not as big of a disparity. I'll go Phoenix. I don't feel great about it, but the Lakers the last couple of years have been good at home, bad on the road. I'll back that trend. Give me the revenge angle for Phoenix, but I'm not going to bet this.
Yeah, it's the revenge angle, right? I don't think Phoenix has played another game since they played the Lakers, if I'm not mistaken. Let me double.
They beat Dallas, but I don't
Oh, they
remember if
beat
that was
Dallas.
after
Yeah,
or before. Okay.
yeah. Yeah, I think this number is right. Gun to my head, I would go Phoenix in this game, like you mentioned, just an immediate revenge spot.
Just to correct
Um,
myself, by the way, both teams are playing their third game in 4 nights, but you still have LeBron and AD, so that might be a bit more physical for them.
yeah, and again, like you mentioned, AD has just gone off to an absolute MVP level start here for the LA Lakers, and I think JJ Redick is smart enough to recognize that he's their best player now. I mean, I look LeBron, we know LeBron what he can do, but he's getting up there in age now. You could see sometimes a motor, running out a little bit there for LeBron there, but AD has just been a monster to start the season. He had 35 points in 38 minutes against the Phoenix Suns, but like you mentioned, they had that 22-point lead, only to cough it up there, did the Phoenix Suns there, but I do think that they can make those proper adjustments here and get this game here against the LA Lakers. So I'll lay the 4 here with the Phoenix Suns. Total 228.5. Scott, anything on that?
I'll just go over. I know both teams shot the ball very well in the last meeting, and that's why it landed 239, but I still don't know if the Lakers can actually play defense. We
Yeah.
saw them go 3-0, but to go through those games in particular, first game of the season, 103 to Minnesota. First game with Randall, they played well defensively. Props there. Played Phoenix, gave up 116. That game landed 239. Played Sacramento. That game landed 258. I don't know if they can actually guard anybody. And Phoenix defensively was good against Dallas, but besides that, not great overall. I'll go with the over in this game.
Yeah, it's over for me as well. I think the JJ Redick's done a fantastic job of figuring out the offense here for the Lakers and getting the guys
Believe
in
it
the
or
right
not,
spot.
a lot of pick and rolls with LeBron and AD, and
Yeah.
benching D'Lo has done a lot for this team. Who would have thought? We never thought of that idea, but
Yeah,
apparently Darvin Ham's taking notes at home that pick and rolls with LeBron and AD tend to be a pretty good offensive, I'd say, system to use.
Darvin Ham's still standing on the sideline there with his hands in his pocket when the team is on a 16-0 run, not knowing what to do there. But I mean, that's a different
You're
conversation.
close. He's the assistant coach of Doc Rivers, who lost the Nets yesterday, so close enough. But
yeah, yeah, gun to my head again. I'd go over. I just think that Austin Reeves has gone on to a great start as well for this Lakers team. I think this will be the season where they end up trading D'Lo and see if they can get something in return for him. But I mean, the depth pieces with Rui, with like I mentioned, Austin Reeves, even guys coming off the bench for them. Dalton Kincaid has actually been pretty good for them as well. I think his minutes will gradually increase as well for this Lakers team.
Bronny's running out of games though. Bronny's in his second game of the. Bronny's in what, the first game of the road trip? He's going to be called down after 5 games. He's got to score a point. You need Bronny to score. Come on, man.
Yeah, it just feels like that. Hey, okay, let's get the father and son moment out of the way, and it seems like all right. Let's have Bronny. I think LeBron. Let him experience his first road trip. He's got that NBA taste. All right, let's send him back down to the G League. Let him develop. Because the Lakers actually done a pretty good job of developing players in their G League system and having them come back up and seeing being effective there. But I think outside of everything that's, him being LeBron's son, whatever, I think obviously everybody agrees that his best for him is to be in the G League, get minutes, develop, and then if there's a possibility where he can come back up later in the season, maybe even not this season, but next season, be an effective role player for the Lakers, then they'll have that conversation there. But right now the best spot for him is in the G League,
We want Bronny
minutes.
Props. Give us the Bronny props. So the point is they got 5 games, so I don't want to go too deep into it, but that's why people were kind of, I'd say, annoyed by the moment with LeBron and his son. It was a nice moment and all, but the argument is it's a farce because he's not an NBA player. And they crafted the entire thing just for this one moment. He played 3 minutes, and then they're immediately going to send him down. He's a G League player. They did it all for, the moment and for whatever, which is why people are against it. But it was nice. It's a nice gesture. And I'm happy they're actually sending him down. I was afraid LeBron's ego wouldn't exactly allow for that to happen. Hopefully he figures it out, but I'm happy that he's going to the G League because he should be in the G League.
Yeah, 100%. And again, I think for Bronny, defensively, I think he's going to be a really, really good player. He just needs to develop some type of jump shot, 3-point shot,
a really good
like
part
that.
To stretch. I'm not sure he'll ever actually be an NBA player, but as of right now, he's clearly too raw to play in the NBA.
Yeah, 100%. So. All right, let's get over to the last game of the night here. Scott, we've got the Portland Trail Blazers. They are headed to Sacramento to take on the Kings in this game. Currently, as it stands, the Kings are a 13-point home favorite with a total of 230.5. Looking at the injury report for both of these teams, we'll start here with the Blazers. Not yet one submitted because they did just play yesterday against the Pelicans.
And they won.
Yeah. They won both games. No. Brandon Ingram had that game winner.
They blew the other game.
Yeah.
Or they almost came back and they lost, but then they got revenge and they won the second game.
Yeah. For the Sacramento Kings, clean injury report. Nobody of significance really on there for this team other than Devin Carter, who is dealing with a left shoulder injury. But outside of that, everybody is going to be a go for the Sacramento Kings team. 13 is a number here for Sacramento here, Scott. What are your thoughts on this game?
So Terrell and I, when we did the Pacific Division preview, disagreed about the Kings. He liked the over. I liked the under on their wins. And my main reason was because the Kings can lose to anybody because they don't guard anybody. 13's too many points. I can't do it. If the Kings are going to win this game, they're going to have to score probably and they're going to cover. They're going to need to score like 130. Yeah. They can get there, and I'm aware that the Kings so far this season have been a bit underwhelming. They got DeRozan in there. They got to figure some stuff out. But the Blazers aren't a good team. They responded. They were competitive against the Pelicans. They fell short. They ended up winning the game yesterday in blowout fashion. I get it's a bad spot. I'm aware of it. The Kings don't play enough defense for me to want to lay 13 points this early in the season. Really? If we're looking at a team that's tanking at the end of the year, then yeah, sure, maybe I'll lay it. But this early in the season, I can't lay 13. That line's way too big for me. Unless the Blazers are going to sit half the roster and the books know about it and the public doesn't, then I got to go with the points here. I think the Kings win 10, maybe 7. 13, that's a ton of points. I can't lay that.
Yeah, I'm not. Again, like you mentioned, they're not playing any type of defense right now. Both of their games have gone over the total, and they've flown over the total. The first game against the Minnesota Timberwolves, the total was 222. Ended up with 232 points. They played the Lakers. That one was set at 230.5. They ended up scoring a combined 258 points. Sorry, 258 points. So it flew over that total there as well. It's exactly what you mentioned, Scott, that this team is not going to play any defense right now. They're 0-2 straight up, 0-2 against the spread, flown over the total. Blazers plus 13. They showed me something against that Pelicans team, but I was high on this team coming in. I know they've had guys coming in out of the lineup, but obviously now losing DeJounte Murray with the fractured hand injury. Zion missed the first game. He came back.
They don't have a center.
They don't have a center yet, which I think the Rockets should probably just trade Steven Adams back over there to the Pelicans because they can utilize him. But that's a different conversation. I'll keep it simple. Blazers plus 13. I love the over in this game here as well at 230.5. I think we'll, again, no defense being played by the Kings. And I think we'll see the pace be really, really fast in this game between these two squads. Anything else for this game?
I like the over too.
Yeah.
Just to be clear. Yeah.
All right. Any props you're looking at in this game?
I'm trying to think of who's more likely to chuck shots for the Trailblazers. It's either Grant or Simons. Probably Grant. One of them are going to end up dropping like probably 25 plus points. I just see a track meet. So I'm expecting one of those two guys to shoot a lot. It's the one issue I kind of have with Portland is that even though Grant is getting paid a lot of money and Simons is a good 3-point shooter, I kind of want more Ayton usage. I kind of want it, and they don't give him enough usage as far as I'm concerned. I know Ayton can be a head case, and he's disinterested half the time.
Yeah.
I feel better about some of the looks he gets and the looks that like Grant and Simons get. It feels like they're really chucking up a lot of shots from the outside, where Aiden's is a bit more calculated. I'll put it that way. But for the Blazers, I don't know what Chauncey Billups is doing half the time anyway. I'm probably going to stay away from props in general. I think Sabonis triple-double's a pretty live prop for this game. I've kind of been on a decent amount of triple-double props for today, but I see points. I don't mind Fox assists. Has been pretty low so far this season. He's been good at it. So I think it's a pretty decent spot.
Yeah, I don't see props just out yet for the Blazers again, just because they did play last night against the Pelicans. I was just quickly looking at Ayton rebounding against the Kings. He's had double-digit rebounds in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 straight games. 11 of the last 12, he's had double-digit rebounds. So I'll be curious to see what that number comes out for him on his rebounding prop. He's had 11 plus in 4 of the last 5 games for this for himself against the Sacramento Kings. So I'll keep an eye out for that for this game here against the Sacramento Kings. All right. That is the last game on the schedule here for Monday night. A lot of fun matchups here tonight. So definitely my eyes and ears will be glued to the NBA schedule here tonight. Scott, let's get into our lock and dog first, and then we'll put together our underdog fantasy entry here for tonight. You want to lead us off?
Sure. I was torn between a couple of plays. It was either going to be the Magic minus 6.5 or the Pistons plus the points. And you know what? It's a system play. Shout out to Terrell. Give me the Pistons plus the 8.5 against Miami. Think it's too many points. I get Miami looked better against Charlotte. Charlotte's on a back-to-back. They had a track meet game against Atlanta. They ran out of gas. It is what it is. Miami, we know historically, has been really bad covering the spread at home for the last couple of years. We've made a lot of money blindly back in that trend. Detroit is 0-3. They played good competition. They've been competitive. I mean, we saw Boston, how good they looked early in the season, and Detroit led in the fourth quarter. They came back from down 20, showed some mental toughness. I thought they hung in there. Miami, though, beat Charlotte on the road by 8, lost to Orlando at home by 19, beat Memphis by 5 in preseason. So you're going down the line for a couple home games. We know that Miami has not exactly been great at covering big numbers. Detroit, though, has been tested. Indiana lost by 6. Cleveland lost by 12. That's a good team. Lost to Boston by 6. They've been competitive. I'll fade Miami, though. It's worked for too long for me to go against it. Give me Detroit plus the 8.5 as my lock. For my dog, give me Joker triple-double at plus 240. Like the price quite a bit. I think it's a great number. We've gone through the numbers against Toronto in years past. He owns this team. They need him to play a bunch of minutes. The team's not any good. And I think Joker can once again get together a monster stat line. The assists are the only question mark. I know you love the rebounds. Joker points will obviously get there for 10. He has a triple-double already this season in a game that got killed in against Oklahoma City. I think it's a great price. But Joker triple-double about plus 240, I think is a bargain for a Toronto team that really is not a great rebounding team. So I'll go with Joker triple-double at around plus 2. I see 220 actually now. So it has dropped a bit. Give me Joker triple-double, updated price plus 220 as my dog.
Love it. All right, for my lock, I do like the Magic there, but I think if the Magic are either it's a close game at the half or Pacers have been up at the half, I would come back on them in the second half. So I'm gonna wait on there. I feel like there should be a better live opportunity. But for my lock, at least, Bucks Celtics, I'm gonna take the over 233. I just think there's gonna be a lot of points in this game. We know Boston's gonna get up a whole bunch of 3-point shots. I think Bucks can get their part of the share here as well. Like we mentioned, Boston has put up at least 120 plus points in all three of their games thus far. I think we'll see a lot of pace in this game here as well. And even if guys coming off the bench for Boston, I mean, we've seen they're 1-9, 1-10. I mean, there's guys that can shoot and fill up the basket there. So I think that even if it is a blowout for the Boston Celtics, I think we'll still continue seeing points being put up in this game here. So Bucks Celtics over 233 as my lock for my dog. Couple of different ways we can go here. We dare and take the Toronto Raptors on the money line. I mean, I feel like Denver. I think like this could be the game where Denver kind of takes her frustration out on. Yeah, nothing really else sticks out as far as an outright dog for me. So I may have to go to the player prop market here. Let's see. I wish they had the rebounding prop out for DeAndre Ayton, but they don't even have that out. Let's see.
I mean, you could parlay 2 regular props if you want to do that instead.
I think I really like Chris Paul's over 7.5 assists here tonight. I'll
Is that the
put
move?
that.
You take the over assist under points for Chris Paul?
Yeah, it's either that or I ladder it up to 10 plus assists. Because
Right.
I know he's gonna have to play the minutes. I feel like this game will be competitive between these two guys. Or these two teams, I should say. So what I'll do is I'll take Chris Paul over 7.5 assists for the game, and then I will take the Jokic rebounds over and make that a player prop parlay here for tonight. And his number is currently sitting at 11.5 at -140.
That
So
one's
there
way
you go.
too low.
Yeah, that's low. I think he walks into like 13 or
Yeah, that's how I
15 here
feel.
tonight.
Mhm.
Let me see if they have it all on his rebounds, actually. But I'll give you that as well. They don't have it out just yet. So we'll go Chris Paul over 7.5 assists. He's at least 8 assists in both of the 2 games. Again, we talked about the Trey Jones injury, that he'll have to play more minutes there. And then for Nikola Jokic, he's just been an absolute monster against at least on the rebounding front, against the Toronto Raptors there. So over 11.5 rebounds and over for Jokic and over 7.5 assists for CP3. That'll get you about plus 214 here for my dog at the dog pricer of plus 214 for those 2 guys for this pod, which lead us to our Underdog Fantasy entry here for tonight. A lot of props that we talked about here that we did like. We can put into our entry here for Underdog Fantasy. A lot of guys that we did like here, Scott. But where do you want to start here for our Underdog Fantasy entry?
Well, Joker rebounds has to be there.
Yeah, let's go Jokic rebounds. That number. Oh, no, I don't want Jimmy Butler. Let's go back to Jokic. His rebounding number and projection is set at 12.5. The higher is a little bit spicy at 1.07x, but I think we both think he walks into like 14, 15 here tonight, right?
I think he should, unless you want to throw in points with it or something. But I mean, 11.5's better, but 12.5's fine. We can just go with the higher on that.
So they have 12.5 rebounds, or they have 39.5 points and rebounds.
That's about 27. Yeah, I think I'll just go with the rebounds.
Rebounds, all right.
Who's going to stop him? Pirtle?
Not Birtle. I'll tell you that much.
So I don't mind the higher on Joker rebounds.
All right, we'll go there. What else do we like here for tonight? Let me just.
You wanted Chris Paul. So
yeah, do you like that one?
Yeah, unless you want to switch it up and take the lower on the points for Paul. In this
yeah, let's switch it up for CP3. The number was, let me just search for it. I think that makes
By the way, Joker's last 2 games against Toronto, 17 rebounds, 15 rebounds. So 12.5's fine.
Yeah. His points are set at 8.5 on Underdog. We'll go lower on that. And let's throw in one more that we like here for tonight.
Okay, I'm trying to think of what exactly we did like.
Did you like Trey assists or anything like that? Points and assists?
No. Oh, you want to do Halliburton lower assists?
Oh, yeah. Hallie. Where is he at? Against Orlando.
Should be 6.5, I think.
The number is at 6.5. The lower. Oh, I don't
Spicy?
want higher. I want lower.
Maybe.
They don't even have lower option. They only have a higher option for his.
That's how you know. That's how you know he's going lower, because they don't even have an option to give you.
All right, so we got to pivot somewhere else. Let's see. Anybody in the chat like anything? Let's see if anybody put anything in there. No, not yet. What about no? We already did Chris Paul from that game. Let's see.
You want to do De'Aaron Fox assists?
Yeah, that's not. I don't hate that.
It's either that or Tatum PRA.
I think I would go Fox just because I feel like we'll see pace in this game.
Okay.
And the number's at 5.5 for his assists, so we can go higher on that. So we'll go with that here for tonight. All right, so our Underdog Fantasy entry here for tonight, Nikola Jokic, higher, 12.5 rebounds. We'll go Chris Paul lower, 8.5 points, and then we'll go De'Aaron Fox higher, 5.5 assists. That 3-pick entry will get you a 6.42 return if all three of those do in fact end up winning. A $10 entry will get you a return of $64.20 for every $10 that you do put in for that entry. Again, reminder, head over there, underdogfantasy.com, use our promo code NBASGPN. You'll get a deposit bonus and a special pick of up to $1,000. So come join the fun with us, and hopefully we do cash that entry here for tonight. All right, Scott, that's going to wrap it up here, my man, for this edition of the NBA Gambling Podcast. Anything else you want to mention before we get out of here?
Yeah, so I dove into Fox's assists, and I think 5.5 might be an auto play. He's had 10 plus in the last 2 games. Double for Fox is about plus 800.
Okay.
Sure. Like, he has had a double in back-to-back games. Plus 800? That's a great deal. Yeah, I'll take that.
That's just overall for De'Aaron Fox, or is that against the Blazers?
Oh, no, I just meant in general. The last 2 games as a whole. This season, he's had double-digit assists. So he's just been very good lately at assisting. So, yeah, I like the play in the underdog lineup, and I also don't mind a sprinkle there on the double-double at around plus 800.
Yeah, I think also that has to do with maybe they had DeMar DeRozan now and Kevin Huerter also being healthy, and Keegan Murray also being able to knock down 3-point shots for them as well. So, yeah, I think that's definitely worth a play here tonight for De'Aaron Fox on his double-double. All right, we'll be back tomorrow for the NBA Gambling Podcast, so look out for us then. If you haven't already subscribed to the NBA Gambling Podcast YouTube channel, please go ahead and do so. We are on the march for 5,000 subscribers by the end of the season. That's a challenge that we've gotten from the bosses, and if they do, or if we do get there, they'll give us a little nice bonus there. So only we can get there with the help of you guys. Currently sitting around a little bit of 3,100. So if you already subscribed, thank you so much. If you haven't, do us a favor, smash that subscribe button. Tell a friend to come join us here on the NBA Gambling Podcast. All right, we'll be back tomorrow for the NBA Gambling Podcast for the Tuesday schedule. So look out for us then. Till then, enjoy the games here tonight. Let's break these books off, and always remember to let it ride.